Hi there, and welcome to another interview. Today, I've got the fabulous Bill with me, and I'm going to ask the question that I ask absolutely everybody when they come onto the program. Hey, Bill, why did you become a carnivore?
Hi, Stephen. It's great to be here. I am thrilled to be a carnivore right now. I have had many illnesses that I had no understanding of for years, and it's 9 months, going on 10 months now, a carnivore. A year ago, I was having to walk often with a cane. I couldn't walk uphill very far at all. Any incline gave me tremendous hip pains. I was diabetic. I've had chronic fatigue syndrome for 35 years, or ME. In the UK, it's known as a myalgic encephalomyelitis. In America, half the doctors here don't even believe it is real. They want to give you depression medicine or something. But I was diagnosed 35 years ago in 1989 with chronic fatigue syndrome. I had a lifetime high, and then 2 weeks later, I had a lifetime low. And that did something to my head, and it did something to my body. I lived in Woodstock for 25 years, Woodstock, New York, the famous one, for 25 years. Before that, I lived in the same region for quite a while. I grew up in Middletown, New York, which is about 40 minutes from where the Woodstock festival happened. I actually, 20 years later, on the 20th anniversary, I was a working musician. I was working all through the 70s and 80s. 89, I played at the 20th anniversary Woodstock. We had over 100,000 people that just showed up with no plan. And I was on stage quite a few times. I was on stage as a solo. I was on stage with a duo that I sang with. I was on stage as part of a trio, and I sat in with several people who saw me play and said, "Oh, can you come and back me up? I'm just playing with an acoustic guitar and I could use a guitar player or something." So I was on stage a bunch of times, and it changed me. When you are playing songs that you wrote and singing in the late evening, it was like 8 o'clock, it's dark, 9 o'clock, something like that, and 100,000 people are screaming and lighting lighters for your music. That changes you. And I was on a high. It was amazing. But everybody left afterwards, and I cat out, called my parents, which were about 40 minutes away, and my father had gone into the hospital just before. He had a pain in his back. He had many problems. He had heart attacks and heart surgery. He had all kinds of illnesses. He couldn't stop smoking. He smoked himself to death. And he was 64. He went in the hospital for back pain, and I called to see how he's doing, and Mom said, "You better come. He's not well." And I got there, and my father had been radiated to a raisin, basically. They didn't understand how to use radiation, and just as today, they still don't know how to use radiation or chemotherapy, which is just poisoning somebody. And he died 2 weeks after Woodstock. And I had a real explosion in my head. It just it depressed the hell out of me. It changed my body. I started eating nothing but garbage. I was just eating crap. I actually came and attended the 21st anniversary a year later. Well, I was just looking at pictures of me on stage then and on stage in the 21st. I had gained like 50 pounds just in that 1 year. I was far less happy. I was unhappy for sure. And it just got worse. A few years after that, I had blown up to about 350, 60 pounds. And I was huge. Felt super sick. I was diagnosed in 89, right after that. I went to the doctor feeling sick, and I didn't get better, and I couldn't figure out for a couple of months. I was still sick. And I went to the doctor and said, "I don't know what's going on. It's not just the flu." And he checked me out, and luckily I had a doctor who was paying attention. He said, have you heard of chronic fatigue syndrome? Looks to me like you have chronic fatigue syndrome because you don't have any actual virus going on that we can find. There's no bacterial infections, but it sounded to him like chronic fatigue syndrome. And so I started trying to deal with that. I started an elimination diet. They called it a yeast infection diet. And I was eliminating a lot of foods and then adding them one at a time back. I felt a little better when I eliminated a lot of foods, not all foods, but some foods. And I remember adding carrots back, and it was like candy. Oh my God, this is sweet. But I didn't get well and didn't find anything that was particularly responsible. So still chronic fatigue syndrome. And then a few years later, I was diagnosed as pre-diabetic. I think I was diabetic, but back then in the early 90s, they were telling people that, 140, under 140 is good. Then it was under 130, then it was under 120. So like 20 years later, they're telling people, oh yeah, you have to be under 100. I floated around 140, 150 all the time then. So I was pre-diabetic, and then I was declared diabetic a few years after that. Met my wife in the mid-90s, my now wife. It helped me feel better a little bit to find someone that I loved and loved me. Made a big difference in my life. Did not make my health any better. I still was walking badly. I grew arthritis, arthritic hips and joints, became worse. I could not play music when I got sick. And from then on, I did not play music anymore. My guitars just gathered dust. I would get out and play once a month or something, maybe, with some friends. And I just wasn't able to play anymore. I was getting arthritis in my fingers, but my hips and my shoulders for sure were really problematic. From then on, I started losing a little weight when I first met my wife, and I was trying to diet a little bit. I got down to 2000, we were married. I was still 306 pounds then. So at first I eliminated what they call the 4 whites. White rice, white flour, pasta, and potatoes. Those 4 are like incredibly bad starches, and they turn into potatoes. Potatoes turn into sugar in your mouth before you even swallow. It's starting to turn into sugar, which is why we love potatoes so much. I'm half Irish, so potatoes were like one of the food groups for me. I gave them up for the most part. I occasionally have a little bit of French fries or something. I wasn't very strict. And that helped a bit. It helped me lose some weight, but I was still 260 pounds for the last 20 years. And when I went carnivore, I was still 260 pounds. I had watched Dr. Sean Baker, Dr. Ken Berry, Dr. Anthony Chafee, and all these wonderful doctors online on YouTube for all through the pandemic. For like 4 years, I watched this stuff, and I was like, really? At first, I was like, oh, another goofy fad diet or something. But I started seeing, and when I first watched the first one, it was like they were using actual science and research and saying, here's what's wrong with what we're being told, and here's what you should be doing that's right. And I thought, I never trust the medical establishment. I have many run-ins with things like that. After I was declared diabetic, the doctor said, well, we can just put you on this pill and then you come back to your normal diet. Excuse me? Go back to my normal diet? You mean eating French fries and potato chips and ice cream and all that is just take a pill? But I said, if I don't take the pill, try something else. I wanted to try diet. He said, yeah, well, you don't have symptoms at the moment. When I was declared diabetic, I had a kidney stone, and that sent me to the hospital in the mid-90s. And then they said, oh, well, you're diabetic, because I was up to over 200 in the hospital. Went back to my doctor, and he said, well, you don't have any actual symptoms at the moment. So, a few months, go ahead, try dieting. It may work. You'd think he'd give me some dieting advice other than the 4 whites. He mentioned the 4 whites. So, but other than that, nothing else. So I cut back on even more starchy stuff, and I cut out ice cream and things like that. Or cut back anyway, and I felt better. I lost some weight. I became pre-diabetic at the time, but I think I stayed right where I was, and it just the standards were lowered, and I'm below the level of what they consider diabetic then. So all that was going on. And I was watching all these doctors, actual doctors and nutritionists talk about carnivore diet. And I thought, there's something to this. And then like 10 months ago, I kind of thought, enough watching. It's time to do. I needed to do something about this. So I decided, let's give it 30 days. I went 30 days carnivore. My wife was like, you're going to die, but okay, I'll support you, whatever you need to do. I hear what you're watching that on YouTube, and I hear some of it. I'm not sure I believe it, but she supported me. Okay. I do all the cooking in the house at the moment. She's kind of the breadwinner. As a writer, she's the working writer still making money. I'm the retired musician. I'm 71 now. I was 70 at the time. And I felt like it was pretty much over. My best friend had died like 6-7 years before, cancer, killed again I think by the treatment, not the cancer. He was killed by chemotherapy that caused blood clots in his legs, and the one came and nailed him in the heart. That's the treatment. That's not the cancer. So I just didn't have faith in doctors. So I started the carnivore. I started 1 month. And by the end of 1 month, I was feeling so healthy. I was feeling like, why didn't I do this years ago? It felt good. I had a couple of weeks of little bathroom difficulty, staying close to the bathroom so I could run there. About 2 weeks that lasted. And then I was fine. I was fat adapted, as they call it. I had up until then been kind of like sloppy keto, or keto by accident, I call it. I was eating very few vegetables and more meat. I was eating a fairly meat-centric diet, but I was eating whatever vegetables. I would cook vegetables for both my wife and I. But I was trying to do like broccoli and asparagus and things like that, not like sweet potatoes or any of that stuff, at least. But so I was eating a lot of meat already. I had just a week or two of a little rough basically my stomach, my gut biome, I understand now, was transferring from a vegetable eater to a strictly meat eater. So I had to get rid of all the bugs that eat the veggies and proliferate more of the bugs that eat the meat. So, and after a month, I was shocked at how good I felt. My hips stopped hurting after about a week and a half. And I never felt that pain again. I had a foggy brain for all the way back 35 years. I had foggy thinking all the time. I would forget constantly. An appointment, like an appointment to be interviewed by you, I would have forgotten that, a year ago. I still would have been, oh, gee, what time is it? Oops. I was not reliable either for my strength or anything. Because it was chronic fatigue syndrome too, I could not really exercise. If you've ever known anything about chronic fatigue syndrome, one of the things that happens is your own immune system starts to beat you up. If you actually start any exercise or any real physical labor, the lactic acid will come into my arms. I would get inflamed. All my muscles would start to ache. I mean, even if I, carried some bags of groceries in from the car, I would feel sore, and I would have to sit down for a while, and even sometimes for the day, and ache, and it just wouldn't pass easily. So I literally could not exercise. And as I got older, I'm 71 now, I was worried about that fact. And I thought a year ago, I was thinking 70, it must be getting to be where it's over. My muscles are atrophying and everything's going away. So I'll be dying soon. So I just kind of resolving that in my head. I'll just live out my few days and, enjoy my wife and our life together. And I'll leave a legacy of some kind for my kids. I don't know what, but, but after going carnivore, 9 months later, 10 months later, actually about 6 months, I was down 60 pounds. I lost 10 pounds a month, every month for 6 months straight. Because once I hit that first month, I said, I'm going. This is it. I'm going to stay on this for a while and see what happens. I went to 90 days and I said, we're going for the haul. And now it's almost 10 months later. I am doing this in fact, my wife, just a couple of days ago, she said, well, two things I know. One is I may never try this diet myself because I like vegetables and I'm doing pretty good with just partial vegetables. I cook her steaks all the time now. But she says, also, I don't want you to ever stop carnivore because, boy, what a difference. It's made a huge difference for me. And I appreciate everything about my wife. She's just phenomenal. Minda Zetlin. Just to throw that out there.
One of the things that does trip people up is not being supported by the family.
Yes.
So you're absolutely right to say, and that's a great quote from your wife, that she likes veggies, but she probably won't do it. But the difference is made to you. Yeah, you better not stop doing it. So I think
she said, "Do not stop."
Yeah, which is brilliant, and that's so supportive. That is so supportive.
Very supportive, and she may eventually cross over because I do, like I say, all the cooking. And when I cook, I always say, am I cooking you a steak too? And she's like, yeah, okay. And, I'll cook her a little asparagus or some broccoli or something like that. And she's fine with just that. And she may, every once in a while, she feels like having a nice big salad. That's fine. And I don't harass her about it. I started to, and she told me, don't bother me. So, okay. Yeah. I stopped.
This is the reason I like these interviews, is because if you're sitting on sitting on the fence and you really want to try carnivore and your partner doesn't want to do it, what a great compromise to you do it and your partner doesn't matter.
Yeah. She, in the beginning, even she said, go ahead, give it a try, but I'll be watching, and you have a problem, we're going to stop that. And I said, okay, you tell me if you see a problem or if I start to mumble strange things, or if I get even worse memory or something, let me know. Or if I grow strange growths on my back or something, let me know. But it's just been smooth sailing now. It's amazing. Now, just yesterday, we went for a 3.5 mile hike at a wonderful natural park on the shore. We had to drive over to Whidbey Island, take a ferry, I live in the Seattle area. Actually, I live in the same town, I found out, as Dr. Baker. Dr. Sean Baker lives in the same town. I had no idea. Watching him for 4 years, wishing I could meet him, shake his hand. I joined his community, and actually I became a coach. I took the course that he has for becoming a carnivore coach. And I'm now helping to coach other friends. And my sister, who lives in Maine, my sister and one of my brothers live both in Maine. My sister was watching my results. And a month and a half ago, rather, she's going carnivore. And now she's, checking in with me, texting me, saying what this happened or what's going on with that. And I'm helping her out, giving her tips. And I appreciate everything that I got from Dr. Baker, but being in that community made an enormous difference, because I was doing this absolutely alone. My wife was supportive, but not doing it with me. I knew nobody else around here who was doing it. I had many musician friends. We have a music community. We get together all the time, several times a week, and play music, like open mics and things. And I see my friends often. But they're all like, oh, you're going to kill yourself, but you look good. I'm glad I lost the weight, but I'm going to make myself sick. I actually had two friends get mad at me, which is, I find really strange. But people, I guess, are so attached to their vegetables and their vegetable diet. We're so ingrained for the last 50 years by an erroneous medical establishment that feeds us bad information to do things. And to this day, still do that. It was very upsetting. I had two friends. I had one friend come out for a beer with me, and we were talking, and I said something about, being a carnivore, but he said, "Oh no, we're omnivores. We're not carnivores." I said, "No, we have the teeth. We prove it. We are carnivores, and we 2.5 million years of evolution. That's what we ate. We've only been cultivating plants for the last 15, 20,000 years at most, or less. And that's it. So, and all the vegetables and all the fruits in every produce department are not natural. They have been bred to be sweet, to be tasty, to be not poisonous, or at least as not poisonous as they can make it. Don't eat the leaves from the potato plant, for instance. That'll kill you. And there's many toxins in all the vegetables we eat. People don't believe that, but it's true. There are toxins. And the EPA has a list of all the toxins that are in the vegetables we eat, even though, nobody's doing anything about it. The fact is, I make a vegetable for my wife every night. I think I was on a different path and I lost my track, but
no, that's fine. Well, you were talking about the community, and that's where
the community is so important, so important. Going on, joining on Dr. Baker's online Zoom calls every day now, because I'm not just because I'm a coach. If you're just on the carnivore diet, you can join the community. You can come on these talks. You can listen to him talk. He's on for an hour, 9 to 10 every morning, our time, 9 to 10 Pacific time, and every morning. And we've got people from France, people from Turkey, people from the UK, folks from Canada, people from all over the US, all online listening to him. And he's there to answer questions. And all of us are there to answer questions. And it's so helpful to have a group of people who are all on the same page. We're all doing the same thing. And we're all there to help each other. And it's so supportive to have that crew. This is one of his t-shirts. I bought a t-shirt, Meat Heals. It certainly does.
Yeah, and it's interesting because you're talking about your friends there who are sadly brainwashed. They don't want to hear
very
it.
Brainwashed.
Fair enough. But
the one guy that I went and have a beer with, he got very angry with me when I was insisting on still saying, but we're a carnivore. We're not omnivores. We're not herbivores. We are carnivores. Very angry. Says, use that word again, and I'm moving. So,
it's crazy.
What, it's carnivore? Crazy. He grabbed his beer and he moved to the other end of the bar, around the other loop of the bar. I was like, okay. And then I got home and he had gone to Dr. Google and found all the links that agreed with him. And things like, cows are responsible for 60% of all the greenhouse gas. No, the EPA number is 3%. So no. Many other things that were all wrong. So instead of getting pissed off, I went through his email with all these different links, and I found an alternative link that would show him, no, this is incorrect. Here's the actual truth. I just told him, I said, I found your email kind of insulting. He called it buffoonery. Carnivore buffoonery. But I answered him with response. I gave him all the responses that he could learn from. I don't know if he read it or not, but he's not being pissy at me anymore.
But let's bring it to real world, you see. So you've done this 10 months. Let's talk about what's actually happened to you. So you mentioned at 6 months, 60 pounds down. Yes. So where are you on your weight? What other things have gone, and how have you improved?
I started making a list. You see it, but it's the whole page is full And I'm now started the next page of all the things that have gone right that I even didn't expect. The number of things is crazy. My foggy brain is gone. I don't have foggy thinking anymore at all. I remember things that I'm surprising myself. It's like, oh yeah, I have to do this at such and such, and I remembered it. Look at that. And I'm no longer, I've reversed diabetes. Type 2 diabetes is gone. I am now running around 70 in when I blood stick, to stick my finger, and I test my blood just once in a while, just for a lark. Between 70 and 90. When I eat something, it goes up to like 90 something, which is still way under any need to worry. My A1C went from 6.1. I'm now down to 5. Well, my last blood test, which was actually like 4 or 5 months ago, was down to 5.6. No longer diabetic. Below 5.7 is not diabetic then. And I'm going to get another test soon. I think I'm probably down in the 4s because it's just nothing happening. I have no symptoms of any diabetes at all. I have no symptoms of any arthritis anymore. I am hiking. Like I said, we did a 3.5 mile hike yesterday. Last week, just as a proof of concept, well, we took a 5 mile walk on what's called the Centennial Trail here. It's a trail that goes for many miles between towns. It's old railroad bed that turned into a hiking trail, but it's all very level. But I did that 5 miles. We walked the whole thing. I got done. I could have gone another mile or two. What the hell, without having to sit down or anything. I felt great. And I am loving the fact that I can do that now. My wife is thrilled that I can now be her hiking partner. She loves to hike, and I couldn't, but now I can. My type 2 diabetes is gone. My arthritis is gone. My chronic fatigue syndrome. I was actually bedridden for a couple of years in the early 90s when I was diagnosed with chronic fatigue syndrome. I was actually receiving, for about 5 years, I was receiving Social Security disability. You can't get Social Security disability in this country easily at all. And they have a very short list of things that they will pay you disability money if you're ill with. And those things include cancer. And I mean like you're dying of cancer. And I don't know, so many very definite debilitating illnesses, and you have to be debilitated. You have to prove you're debilitated to get that. Chronic fatigue syndrome is something that in this country, half the doctors didn't even admit that existed. So that was a battle, but I had a lawyer that helped me put this stuff together, and I went to my doctor and got all the information and sent it to them, and they said they agreed. I was bedridden, and I was receiving a Social Security disability because I was literally disabled with chronic fatigue syndrome. A CFS clobbered me, but it's gone. It seems to be gone now. Since I have had it for 35 years. The symptoms come up anytime I get any exercise of any kind, and my muscles would ache and my body would ache, and I would not be able to function. I had brain fog. That's all part of CFS. No longer. I have no symptoms that point to CFS anymore. It's just gone. I have no stomach issues anymore. I don't seem to burp much and fart much. Not to be too gross, but as far as like going to the bathroom, I only have to go about once every 2 to 3 days now. I just don't eat anything that needs to be excreted. I pee, plenty during the day. I'm 71 after all. I have a 71-year-old prostate that would prefer to empty the bladder often. But even that is changing. I think it's repairing my prostate or something. It seems to be very different down there. And everything is getting better.
So the big things you've mentioned there, Bill, are pretty impressive. I mean, losing the weight is fantastic. Coming off the diabetic medications and the chronic fatigue syndrome.
Yeah.
What else? Is there any other sort of littler bits that are great?
Oh, the list is almost endless. No foggy brain. My libido is back. Who knew? Passing gas is a lot less, and it doesn't stink. Hiccups. I don't hiccup anymore. I don't snore anymore. I sleep very deep, and when I wake up wide awake. Boom. I don't wake up groggy anymore. The eye floaters in my eye that I've had for several years now seem to be gone. I have much better heat resistance. I don't seem to sunburn anymore. I just tan, weirdly enough. I have way more energy. I'm not using a cane anymore. It's just crazy. Oh, the foot fungus that people get for the rest of their lives. I was a swimmer in high school, and yeah, dirty pools, dirty showers, and everybody showering together, and everybody shares the germs. I got the foot fungus from that. I was a lifeguard for some years when I was a teenager. I've had that foot fungus, a toe nail fungus, all my life, 70 years. It's dying. It's just going away. The new nails are growing out clean. That's mind-boggling to me. It's crazy. The number of things that have gone right are just one after another after another. I'm happy. I'm not moody. Things don't make me as angry. I used to get like really angry at things. Something didn't go right.
Let's turn it to a bit more positive then.
Now I have no depression. I am ready for the next 50 years if I can do it.
What is your weight now, just out of interest?
Down to 190.
Wow.
My high school weight. It's very bizarre. I'm 71. I've been a big guy all my life. I was a swimmer in high school, but I've always been kind of a big boned guy, a little extra padding. My grandmother was Irish, and potatoes were at every meal, constantly. And she, I was babysat by her. My mother worked, and when I was little, and so I spent much time with my grandmother, and every meal was like, was there like 3 potatoes left? You get one, you get one. Yeah.
How tall are you? Just so people have got
I'm
some
6
idea.
foot. 6 foot tall. So 185, 190 is a good weight for me.
It's very good. And there will be some people out there, some skeptics out there will be saying, well, look, he lives in Ireland. He's talking about potatoes being sort of like a staple. Well, it wasn't a staple until 1492, which most children know. We didn't have potatoes in Europe until the 15th century. And of course, the potato famine in the 1830s.
Well, it became a starvation diet.
Yeah.
And that's what happened. Because the Irish Catholics, which my grandmother was, and I was raised that way. I like George Carlin's approach. I was Irish Catholic until I reached the age of reason.
Yeah, which is brilliant. He's my favorite. Right. Yeah. Let's just do some housekeeping for people watching, because I get these questions. So are you OMAD, 2MAD, or do you not do any of that?
I'm 2MAD now. I'm kind of moving towards OMAD. I don't have breakfast at all. We make like 10 eggs, because that's how many fit in the container. We boil like 10 hard-boiled eggs and put them in the fridge. So every day I get up, I start, about noon or so, I'll have a hard-boiled egg. I am not hungry until 2 or 3 in the afternoon usually. Actually, I just had my hard-boiled egg a little early because I knew we were getting together at noon here. So, but I haven't eaten anything since my little steak last night, and I had a flank steak. So I eat generally in the afternoon, about 2 or 3 o'clock. I'll cook a steak or some hamburger or something. I'll cook a minced meat to you. I'll cook some minced meat, a pound, and cut it up, and just ground it up, just brown it in the pan. Or sometimes I just cut it in half and just squash the 2 halves into great big burgers and cook them that way. Either way, but I always make sure I put some butter on it after I've cooked it, because I want that extra fat as well. and I try to pour the fat that came out of it back onto the burger after I cook it too, because that it helps to get that extra fat. I understand this is not a meat diet so much as a fat diet. It's high fat, no carb. And so I need the fat.
Yeah, that's great. What about drinks? What are you drinking?
Pretty much water now. I started paying attention. There you go. I do have coffee. Coffee is still in my world. I have 1 to 2 cups a day. I used to drink 3 or 4 cups a day because, working at home or being home, a lot. I would just walk around with my coffee cup all day long. But I've cut that back. I'm now 1 to 2 cups. And I put butter in my coffee and a little cream. I don't use milk anymore because I know there's 3 kinds of sugar in milk. No more milk. But I use a little bit of whipping cream and butter. And I whip it up, and it's lovely. It's delicious. And
great.
All I need.
Did you ever include fasting in your regime in the last 2 months?
Other than intermittent morning fasting, I do that. I push it to sometimes like 4 or 5 in the afternoon, sometimes when I really feel the need for a little bit of fast. I've never done 24 or 48-hour fasts yet, but that's not to say I may. I have been contemplating that. I like to eat too much, so it may be a problem, but I'll try it. I'll probably give it a shot in another couple of months or something. But right now, I kind of want to get to a year carnivore. It's a 2-stage plan I have right now. First was to lose the weight. So I did nothing but eat beef for the last 9 months. I have lost weight and I am now able to exercise. So the next phase, I'm going to be still eating carnivore, but I need to build muscle because I know that it's the fat people that don't make it to 100. They're always skinny as a rail. My wife's stepfather made it to 105. He was a marathon runner as an adult. He started when he was 49 and he ran up into his 80s, I think. And he holds records for 70 to 75-year-olds and 75 to 80-year-olds all around the world. He's run in Tokyo and Naples and in London and New York and all over the place. And so he's actually in a book of 50 top runners of the 20th century. He's listed in there. So the doctors said that that's what saved him all those years, doing that. His carotid arteries were very, very large. Because of the running, they pushed a lot of blood up into the brain. So he had a couple of TIAs, minor stroke type things, that did not incapacitate him in his 80s. And that's why the doctor says, well, it's because you were getting plenty of blood up there. And it just helped flush that out. So it makes a difference. Exercise does make a difference. I recognize that. Now I'm going to start exercising. I need to build muscle for the long haul.
Yeah, that's brilliant. I just want to tell the viewers that if that sounds unbelievable, I had a person start at 89 and celebrated his 90th birthday from being sedentary to doing 9 holes of golf. I bored people with that before. And a runner who started at 80, so this would now be 22 years ago, and he's running at 102. And if you don't believe that, there's even
he's still running,
and there's even a female, and there's even a category of runners at 100 to 110. All right, so this is all true. I've got 2 more questions for you, Bill. Do you take any supplements?
I do electrolytes. I don't take much in the way of supplements. I do take a magnesium pill. I'm off all other pills. I had a heart attack 7 years ago. And I was on assorted pills. I wasn't on statins. I refused statins. So the cardiologist instead put me on red rice yeast, which is a natural, but it acts like a statin. It does the same job as a statin. So essentially it was a statin. And I was on carditone for blood pressure. I had a high blood pressure. That's down. I'm off all the medications. I'm off blood pressure medications, lisinopril, gone. I went to a doctor recently to say, I'm on carnivore and I would like to. I don't have a current physician at the moment, but my physician at the time I went to, I had lost a doctor, but in the same group, they assigned me to another. So I went to her, and she was an Indian lady, very nice. I told her I'm on the carnivore diet. And I just want to kind of get blood tests and kind of watch myself. She says, oh, okay, first pee in this cup. And she had to test my urine. And she then comes back to me and says, well, I see protein in your urine. And that tells me that your kidneys have been damaged by eating meat. And so she put me on lisinopril for kidney damage. And I went home. I never felt pain or anything from my kidneys. I thought about this, and I went and looked on Dr. Berry's site. Dr. Berry's YouTube has videos about kidney stuff like that, and various other doctors. I think Dr. Sean Baker has also something about that. Anyway, I saw Dr. Berry's, and it made me understand I just eat beef all day long. That's all I eat. Of course, there's going to be protein in my pee. It's all I eat. I have a tremendous amount of protein in my food. That's why. She was not even paying attention. She didn't even listen to me. All she did was grab the pad, write a prescription. That's all they seem to want to do. So I basically fired her. And I only go to a naturopath now. They help. I have a naturopath that helps me pay attention to my lab results and things like that, and tell me, okay, my numbers seem to look good. Even though she keeps repeating to me, I can't do anything if you need medication. Remember, I know. I'll take care of it. But I feel like I have to be my own physician. And when I go to a doctor, that's kind of where I start. I start saying, okay, just to be clear, I consider you my advisor. I'm the physician. I'm the final say of what I put in my body and what I don't. And it's not going to be pharmaceuticals. So
that's great.
Often like that.
Yeah, I think that's the thing. People eating this way have definitely taken not the high road, but they've researched. You do not become a carnivore unless you're open-minded, because it is definitely off track. And you just got
4 years of watching those videos to finally get it through. To understand what I'm looking at is real stuff, and it's not going to make me sick to do this.
And I loved your quote earlier, which was enough watching, time to do. Right. The final question. There will be many people watching this who are still on the fence. Okay. They what you were, when you did that 4 years, looking at this, listening, thinking. So what advice would you give to somebody who is sitting on the fence about carnivore, not sure whether to try it or not? Have you got any words of wisdom?
I would say, give it a try, but give it a try slowly. If you don't trust it, just start eating a little more beef and a little less vegetables. Do that every day, reduce how much vegetables you have and increase how much beef you have. And after a couple of weeks, you will be eating carnivore. Try it for 30 days. What the heck? It's not going to kill you. We know now we get all the vitamins that we need through beef. And I understand it's the ruminants, beef, it's the lamb, goat. Those are the grass eaters are the ones that are the best for us. Pork is not so good, but we do eat bacon. They say the mantra that we use is beef, butter, bacon, and eggs. Those are the foods that are kind of central to my diet. And I pretty much stay with beef, but your results may vary. Try it with chicken, try it with fish. It's all carnivore, and that's fine. But give it a shot. What do you got to lose? Try it for 30 days, see how you feel. If you feel good, keep going. Give it a try. I would say give it a shot. It's healthy.
Wow, that was a fabulous interview. I hope you enjoyed that. And if you like that sort of thing, I recommend you watch this one next.